011000111.
01110011001.
An excellent point, Abe. I think we should talk about the Relics, Warlord Trait, Stratagems, and Dynastic Codes of the Necrons. But first, I'm JayArr.
I'm Stable Abe.
And you're watching Bell of Lost Souls. As you might have gathered from our introduction, we are talking about Codex Necrons right here. We are really digging them so far, and now we're gonna tell you the things, like, some of the units have changed, but by far, like, the biggest improvement is in the Dynastic Codes.
And this is what's making the game work. And so we'll start off with overview of who gets that stuff. I don't know if you watched some of our Tau stuff, but I said on that the Tau had the best names for their abilities.
Yes.
They have been trumped.
Like, yeah.
Because the Necron ability, which gives them objectives secured to their infantry, basically, is their number is Legion, their name is Death. And that's the best name for an ability I've seen in a long time.
No, it's amazing.
It's so good. As I said, that gives troop units objectives secured.
Pretty much. Then there's a Dynastic Code, which goes to all units in the dynasty.
In the dynasty, if the entire detachment is from the same dynasty. Now they do have an exception to that because there's a few things that don't get any dynasty. These are the Dynastic Agents and Star Gods. So we've seen this with the Astra Militarum and with the Tau, that there are a few things in their books that don't really fit in with the overall, regimental or sept things or now code things. Right. So there's a couple characters, Anakrar the Traveler and Illuminator Sizraz, and Triarch Praetorians and Triarch Starkers, and Satan Shard units do not get any abilities.
There we go.
But you can also take them, and they do not.
They don't count against.
They don't count against your thing.
Sure. So let's go through the Dynastic Codes. You've probably seen them by now on the internet, but we're going to tell you about them anyway. There's first up is the Sutek, whatever, however you want to say that, with the Relentless Advance. If a unit with this code advances, it treats all ranged weapons that it has as assault weapons until the end of the turn, which is amazing.
Yep. This is not, mind you, rapid fire weapons only. Some of the other units or armies have abilities that make rapid fire weapons assault. This is all weapons are assault.
Yeah, which is great. And if it does not advance, a unit with this code does not take the penalty for hit rolls when moving and firing a heavy weapon.
Next, you've got Mefrit, Solar Fury. This is another really amazing ability. Each time a model with this code shoots an enemy unit that is within half range of its weapon's maximum range, the arm penetration characteristics of that weapon's attack is improved by 1.
Ouch.
Which is great, because this is for all your crazy weapons.
Yeah.
And this is an amazing one for just your basic Necron Warrior, who when he's rapid firing goes to AP2.
That buffs him up so much.
Which is just great. It's amazing for your Tesla Immortals, who normally only don't have any AP, but they're getting lots of extra hits. Now at half range, they're getting AP1 and crazy hits. So that's great.
Delicious. Then there's the Nighlok Dynasty, which is Awakened by Murder. You can reroll all failed hit rolls in the fight phase if you have charged, were charged, or did a heroic intervention this turn. Simple, straightforward. If you want to make a Necron Close Combat Dynasty, you honestly might want to consider one of the other dynasties too, because they're so good.
Yeah.
But this one is pretty good, and the one that's going to make you the most assaulty.
Yep, definitely. You've got Nighlok. They're aggressively territorial. You can reroll hit rolls of 1 for units with this code whenever they shoot, including when firing Overwatch, as long as they did not move in the preceding movement phase, and they have not disembarked from a transport during this turn. So, funny thing, like the Tau, you have to have had a preceding movement phase. Now, in your shooting phase, you're always going to have a preceding movement phase. But if the enemy goes first and charges you on turn 1, you will not have had a preceding movement phase to not move it. And by the strict interpretation of the rule, you will not get to reroll 1s on turn 1 if the enemy goes first in Overwatch.
That's probably going to come up like every other game.
I mean, in 8th edition.
In 8th edition, turn 1 charges happen. Then there's the Nephrek, who have the Translocation Beams. I like this one a lot.
It's the most complicated.
It is, but I like it. So if a unit with this code advances, you add 6 inches to its movement characteristic instead of rolling a dice. If they are the unit that you have is affected by my will be done or a wave of command, you get to add 7 instead. And if a unit advances, it can move across models and terrain as if they were not there.
Yeah. Which is pretty great.
Yeah.
I really think this is great for some of your guys, because it's great to like run up and assassinate enemy characters, basically.
Yeah, basically.
If you've got assault weapons and things like that, you can just teleport through their bubble wrap and be like, yeah, no, I'm shooting your character. He's the closest model now.
Yeah.
So pretty great.
Tesla guns are assault weapons.
Yep.
I'm shooting you. I'm shooting you with the deadliest weapon to characters, a bucket of dice.
Yep. And then also there are some abilities that let you charge after advancing now, so you can teleport through your bubble wrap.
Speaking of which, let's talk about stratagems.
Yeah.
Now, we aren't going to go through all of them, but we are going to talk about a lot of the cool ones. And there are a lot of cool ones in this stratagem. First up, just some basic numbers. There are 8, 13, 18, 18, 22, 27 stratagems in general. That includes one for each of the dynastic codes. So there are 22 generic ones, 5 faction-specific ones, and they are pretty beefy and spicy.
The ones that you saw in the chapter approved did translate over to this book.
Absolutely.
So the enhanced reanimation protocols, and I forget the other one, but the one that lets the canoptic rules units come back are in here.
Oh, the repair protocols, I think?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, repair subroutines.
Repair subroutines. So those are both in here, unchanged.
Then, of course, as we talked about when we were covering the powers of the Catan, the Wrath of the Catan, or Satan, lets you, after you resolve a power, you can randomly select another power and immediately use it.
Not bad. It's 2 points. It's a little expensive.
It is a little pricey.
But and it's random, but it's okay. There's better Catan abilities in here.
There are.
You've got a lot of ones that randomly help with your various invasion beams and teleport abilities. So you've got some that affect that. You've got your generic get more relics, or in this case, artifacts of the eons. You've also got a couple really great ones. 2 most generic ones I think that you're probably going to use a lot.
Yeah.
Solar Pulse is probably the most useful stratagem in the book, possibly in the game, for just a generically useful one.
Yeah.
It's 1 command point. Use the stratagem after a Necron unit from your army has declared its target in the shooting phase. Before any hit rolls are made, pick one of the enemy units that your unit is targeting. Then it'll cover against your weapons this phase. That unit's phase.
Yeah.
So if you're suddenly wanting to shoot enemies out of cover, then you need to get rid of them. Just a great cheap ability.
A command point, they're not in cover. That strips away like light infantry of their only protection most of the time, especially now that you're if you're rapid firing and you're, say, the Mephrit, you're just doing an extra AP on top of all of that to spite everyone.
Yeah, so that's a huge swing, especially even if you're firing heavy infantry and cover like Marines. They're like, oh, I normally have a 2+ save. You're like, nah, I use this and I'm Mephrit and I'm just my regular Necron warriors, and suddenly instead of a 2+, I'm back to my 3+. Now I'm to a 4+. Now I'm to a 5+.
Yep.
So basic Necron warriors can just shoot heavy infantry out of cover with ease with that. So that is a really
what's the other generic one that you're going to see a lot?
I think Resurrection Protocols is a great one. This is kind of a throwback to some of the older editions of Necrons.
Yeah.
Use it when a Necron character from your army is, except for Trace on the Infinite or a Satan Shard, is slain at the end of that phase. So it's the end of the phase, which is important. Roll a d6 on a 4+, set the character up again as close to as possible to his previous position, which I don't like. Necrons can be whatever gender they want, dang it. And with 1 wound remaining. You cannot resurrect the same model more than once.
But it's only a command point, and that lets you get your character back.
Your character back, yeah. And most of the characters have a way of healing themselves.
Yeah.
So they come back with 1 wound.
They've got living metals, so they'll repair themselves, and you can in fact speed that along the way with some of the stratagems.
Some of the things. It can be used on the named characters, and funnily enough, on a Catacomb Command Barge.
It's true, that's a character.
Even after the Catacomb Command Barge has exploded,
with
dealing mortal wounds, it can then come back.
Kind of amazing. So it might explode again. Another cool one that I saw in here is the there's the disruption fields, which is a great close combat strategy. You give a unit +1 strength right before the fight phase, so they'll be hitting harder.
Which is harder, and Necrons are already generally fairly strong, so that's great.
A lot of times that can if you're attacking like normal guys, that can put you in the wound on 2's threshold.
Yeah, definitely. I really like self-destruction. This is also a throwback to older Necron codexes and editions. Use it after a unit of Canaptic Scarabs from your army piles in before they make their close combat attacks, so very specific timing there.
Sure.
Select a Canaptic Scarab Swarm model in your unit, and then pick an enemy unit within 1 inch of it. Your Canaptic Scarab Swarm model is destroyed. Move from the battlefield and roll a d6. On a 2+, the enemy you pick suffers D3 mortal wounds. So they just get to pile, they get to explode like the little bombs they used to be.
Sweet.
So it's great. I've also been a pretty good fan of Disruption Field Amplification. So this is a great one that's going to make Lich Guards a little more popular. Use the stratagem. It's 2 command points. Use the stratagem in your shooting phase when an enemy unit targets a unit of Lich Guard from your army, equipped with Dispersion Shields.
So
the big shields, which is probably how you want them effective.
Honestly, yeah.
Your invulnerable save is improved to 3+ until the end of that phase. In addition, until the end of the phase, each time you roll an unmodified 6 for this unit's invulnerable saving throw, the unit that made the attack suffers a mortal wound after it has finished making all of its shooting attacks.
Woo, that's spicy.
Well, that's great. I've seen people talking about using this and basically a bunch of Satan shards and characters hiding behind 1 unit of Lich Guard. So the only target the enemy has is that Lich Guard. And then you just pop this every turn and reflect all their shots back at them.
Whee!
So that's pretty good. I think Quantum Deflection is another one that you're going to see all the time. It's one command point. Use this stratagem when an enemy unit targets a vehicle in your army that has the Quantum Shielding ability. Before any hit rolls are made until the end of the phase, so it's the entire phase, not just against an attack, subtract 1 from rolls made from your vehicle's Quantum Shielding ability to see if damage is ignored for each unsaved wound. So that makes your Quantum Shielding so much better, and it's also the only way that they can deflect shots of 1 damage. So you can actually now
negate all of the little death by 1,000 cuts attacks that you're getting.
I mean, you still have to roll a 1, but it gives you that ability.
You might save yourself a wound or 2 here and there.
And it makes you a lot better at just really easily shrugging off those big, huge attacks that are going to wreck you. So that one is really great.
Then, of course, there's adaptive subroutines, which lets your Canoptech units advance and charge and shoot and all that good stuff.
As we were talking about, you can, if you're playing the teleporter guys, the Translocation Beams, you can teleport through the enemy and then charge with that.
Which, so good. Hey, characters, you're dead now. Or you're at least hurt a lot now. And then finally, let's go through each of the Dynastic Stratagems.
We'll go through that, and there's also one more that I was mentioning earlier. The good Satan power is Cosmic Powers. This is 1 command point. Use the stratagem at the start of your movement phase. Select a Satan shard from your army. The model can replace one of its powers with a different power of Satan of your choice.
So if I wanted to have 2 shards of the Satan that had, say, access to Sky of the Falling Stars, which is a great power, I could just spend a command point and do that rather than have to take 4 of them in my army.
So normally when you're picking your powers, you can't pick duplicates until all the powers have been taken, which means with Satan shards, you'd have to take at least 4 Satan shards before you get any duplicates. With this power, you can take 2 or 3 and then start swapping their powers out to get duplicate powers. You're going to see that one used a lot.
Yes. A lot. So let's go through. Here's what each of the dynasties has. There's Methodical Destruction, which you can use the stratagem after a Satek unit from your army has done an unsaved wound to an enemy unit. Add 1 to hit rolls for any other units that target the same enemy unit that phase. Again, we've seen this stratagem before. It still carries the same question with it. The same little bit of right now. Cheesiness you can do. You can have 1 guy from your unit of immortals shoot at the unit that you've done damage to, and then have the rest of them, say, target a different unit and be at +1 to hit.
Because technically, the
unit has targeted that enemy unit.
Next, you've got the Nighlok Stratagem, Reclaim a Lost Empire.
I love that.
Also 2 command points. So these guys have some great names too, I gotta say. Use the stratagem at the end of your turn. Select a Nighlok unit from your army. If the unit is within 3 inches of an objective marker, or if it did not move for any reason during its turn, then until the start of your next turn, you can add 1 to saving throws made for that unit, and increase the attack characteristics of models in that unit by 1.
So basically, that's this objective is mine now.
Yeah.
Stratagem.
That's a really great one. Gives you a really good ability to just hold on to important targets on the table. And interestingly enough, it does not stipulate infantry unit or anything like that.
Yeah, so you could throw that on.
I mean, my favorite would be race.
Yeah.
And then
give them an extra attack.
Well, give them a 2-up and vulnerable save. Right?
Yeah, because it's all their saves. Yeah. Good luck getting rid of those guys.
And an extra attack because they're pretty great at combat too.
Yes. Now, you would have to either be fighting over an objective or not have moved. But if you're already stuck in combat,
or you can give your immortals that are sitting back there shooting a 2-up save just so they can stick around. I think interestingly, you could possibly combo that with the dispersion fields.
Oh yeah!
To give your Lich Guard a 2-up invulnerable save
and reflect shots on a 5.
Yeah, you would. No, it's an unmodified 6.
Okay.
So you still only reflect on a 6, but you still have a 2-up invulnerable save.
That's pretty good.
Which is pretty insane.
That's literally as good as it gets.
Yeah.
The Nephrek have Translocation Crypt, which you use that stratagem during deployment. You can put either an infantry or a swarm unit in the... basically, it lets you deep strike them.
Yeah.
Simple, straightforward, 1 command point. You get deep strike some guys.
Yeah.
It gives you options. Flexible, good times.
Not bad. You've got Blood Rights. This is the Nighlok Stratagem. It's 3 command points. We've seen similar ones. Use the stratagem to the end of the fight plays. Select a Nighlok unit from your army. The unit can immediately fight for a second time. I do like that it doesn't have any restrictions. It's not an infantry or character. Some of those other rules restrict to that thing. So
no, you're just like, hey, do you like murder? Murder again.
Murder thing. Again, this would be a great one to use on a big unit of race now that they're more deadly. Or you're, something like that. You can't use, again, Satan, things like that. Don't have Dynasty Codes.
So
they can't benefit from it, but still a great one.
And then, of course, there's talent for Annihilation, which is the Methodical Stratagem, and basically you use it right before you have one of your units attack in the shooting phase. Every time you make an unmodified hit roll of 6 with that for a model in that unit, you make an additional hit roll for the model. So it's like you get an extra attack on a 6-up.
Yeah, which is cool.
Yeah,
definitely cheap, 1 command point. Throw those things out there. I kind of love it on using it with like Tesla weapons.
Yes, because hey, did you make a roll of a 6? Now you get to have an extra attack, and you've already hit 3 times.
You already hit 3 times, and then that one could be a 6 to give you 3 more hits.
Great. Now we've already covered the powers of the Satan in our unit deep dive. We talked about them alongside the Transcendent Satan shards. So if you want to learn about them, check that video out. But let's talk about relics, or artifacts of the Aeons.
So we've got some good ones here. There are, I want to say, 8 generic ones and 5 that are unique to Dynasty. So let's go over them all real quickly.
Yeah, there's the Orb of Eternity, which is a fancy resurrection orb, which lets you do Resurrection Orb
but with +1.
With +1.
Yep.
Good times.
Generically useful. Nothing you can't do already. Just slightly better.
Right.
You've got Void Reaper. This replaces your War Scythe or your Void Scythe, and it is a better close combat weapon, basically.
Yeah.
It's actually, I think, very similar to what Nightbringer uses.
Yeah.
It's AP -4, does 3 damage, wounds on a 2+, unless you're a vehicle. In that case, it's strength 7.
Right. There's Lightning Field, which gives you a 4-up invulnerable save, and every time you have an enemy unit within 1 inch of you at the start of your fight phase, you can roll a d6. On a 4-up, that unit takes a mortal wound because you're shocking him with lightning.
So I think a lot of the Necron characters already get a 4-up invulnerable save.
It's true.
So it's interesting. Nightmare Shroud. Your save characteristic is improved by 1, and then enemies reduce 1 from their leadership while they're within 6 inches of you.
There's the Gauntlet of the Conflagrator, which is An 8-inch weapon you can fire once. It does a D6. You roll a D6 for every model within the unit. On a 6, they take a mortal wound.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you know,
not bad.
Not bad.
But not great either.
There's the Veil of Darkness.
Unchanged.
Mm-hmm.
My favorite, I think, is the Nano Scarab Casket. So it's a model with a phylactery only, which is only a Destroyer Lord.
Right.
So I don't know why this, but yeah, this is an option, so I don't have to take it. The Nano Scarab Casket replaces your phylactery. So the bearer of the casket regains D3 lost wounds at the beginning of your turn, or sorry, rather than just one, and from the Living Metal ability.
Mm-hmm.
In addition, they also regain D3 lost wounds at the beginning of your opponent's turn.
Woo!
Each turn, they get D3 mortal wounds back. As if that wasn't good enough, however.
What else?
The first time the bearer is slain, roll a D6. On a 4+, the bearer is set up again at the end of the phase.
Good.
As close as possible to his previous position, and more than an inch from enemy models, with D6 wounds remaining. Now, this isn't destroyed when that happens, so they're still going to be getting back those D3 wounds every turn.
Right. So, wow.
Yeah.
So basically, you're never getting rid of that character.
You're never getting rid of that character. So that's on a Destroyer Lord. They're already pretty tough to kill.
Yeah.
You also have that stratagem we mentioned earlier that can bring a character back. So you can use that and the Nano Scarab Casket to bring him back twice. And if you kill him in the fight phase, and he's going to come back at the end of it with D6 wounds, and then immediately heal another D3, he's going to be back at his full wounds.
Yeah, that's pretty great.
Yeah, so if you want to build a next to unkillable character, that's how you do it.
Then there's the Sempiternal Weave, which increases the toughness and wounds characteristics of the bearer by 1. You give it to an infantry guy, make him a little bit tougher. Yeah,
not bad.
Not bad. Then, of course, we get into the dynastic stuff, which is where it's at.
So we've got the Epistle Staff. That's a South Tech model with a Staff of Light only. Replaces your Staff of Light, and it's kind of a slightly better Staff of Light, I guess. Really, it's more of a flamer in some ways. So in melee, it's mostly the same, or you can automatically hit its target. Roll 3d6 if the unit is hit. I guess it always does this.
Yes. So basically,
okay, it's not just from shooting. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, it is it auto hits. If you're hitting them in the shooting phase, roll 3d6. If you get equal to or greater than the highest leadership characteristic in the unit, which on 3d6, not too hard, deal D3 mortal wounds instead of normal damage.
Yeah. In combat, it automatically hits, but it just has a normal profile of minus 2 AP and 1 damage.
There's the Time Splitter Cloak, which is for Nighlok guys. Once per battle, you can do a single reroll on either hit, wounds, or damage rolls. We've seen that kind of thing before, but the real deal is you get a 5-up Feel No Pain.
Yep, which is great. You've got the Voltic Staff, which is the Mephrit ability.
Yep.
Again, replaces your Staff of Light. In shooting, your range 12, assault 3, strength 6, minus 3 AP and 2 damage. In melee, your strength user, minus 2 AP, 1 damage.
And it's a Tesla staff.
So each time you roll a 6, you in the shooting phase. Well, it's not. It's a little better than Tesla staff. Each time you roll a 6 for to hit a wound roll of 6 for this weapon in the shooting phase, the target suffers a mortal wound.
Wow, that's even better.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Which again, it does 2 damage. So with 3 shots, you could max out at doing 9 damage. 6 from the 3 hits, and then 3 wounds. Yeah.
Ouch. There's the Blood Scythe for the Nighlok Dynasty. You replace a War Scythe or Void Scythe with it, and every time you fight, you make a D3 additional attacks. It's Strength +2, AP -4, 2 damage each.
Then you do have the Solar Staff, which is a Nephrak ability. Again, replaces your Staff of Light. Shooting, it is Assault 6 with Strength 5, -3 AP, and 1 damage.
That's really good.
In melee, it has the standard Staff of Light profile. And then each time an enemy unit is hit by this weapon in the shooting phase, roll a d6. On a 4+, the enemy unit is blinded until the end of the turn. It cannot fire Overwatch. It must subtract 1 from any hit rolls made from this unit.
Wow. That's
pretty great.
That's pretty great.
And next up, we do have the Warlord traits.
These things are great.
Yeah. So we've got 6 generic Warlord traits and 5 Dynasty Warlord traits.
They are as follows. There's Enduring Will, which reduces any damage inflicted on your Warlord by 1 to a minimum of 1. So, hey, you've got a Serpent Shield.
Well, Oh, hey, I put that on my really tough
On my Destroyer Lord with the Nano Scarab Casket.
Yeah, and he's just never going to die. You've also got Eternal Madness. You can reroll failed wound rolls for your Warlord in the fight phase if he charged, was charged, or performed a heroic intervention this turn.
There's Immortal Pride, which allows you to auto-pass morale tests, or any friendly Dynasty unit auto-passes morale tests while within 6 inches of your Warlord, and your Warlord gets to pretend he's a Psyker and can deny 1 power, just like a real human.
But that and Gloom Caskets really do give them a pretty decent ability to deny psychic abilities. And I think this is a book that does not having psychic powers the right way.
Yeah.
It gives them a few kind of cool ways to defeat them, just because they're like, I have really strong brain, basically.
Right, but it
then it also gives you the Satan powers, which aren't psychic powers, but act a lot similar to them, so you kind of have a similar way to do it. Unlike, say, unfortunately, the Tau, who are just like, nah, you have no way of interacting with this phase, and nothing that replaces it.
Yeah.
Unless you count the I shoot lots of marker lights as your psychic phase.
I don't.
No one does. Next, you've got Thrall of the Silent King.
Right.
You increase the range of all the abilities on your Warlord's data sheet by 3. If the Catacomb Command March has this, it does not apply to its explodability.
Dang,
which
they
is
thought
sad.
Of that. That's so sad.
Yeah.
That would have been amazing.
But I'll give them props for seeing that loophole and catching it earlier.
Yeah.
If the Cryptek has the Warlord's traits, it only increases the range of that model's Technomancer ability, not of all other Crypteks in your army, which is a good catch because I believe that the Cryptek's ability says within like 3 inches of any Cryptek.
Right.
So without that specific wording, it would technically increase everyone's.
Right.
So again, good catch, Games Workshop. Like that's a well written rule. If a Cryptek with this ability has the Warlord trait, again, it does not affect the distance. The Cloak allows the model to move in the movement phase, which sad, but again, good catch.
Makes me think that must have come up at least once during the playtest.
So I don't know. This is a really interesting one. The extra 3 inches is great.
Yeah.
I think it's funny that they wrote this rule so well that they managed to close all the loopholes. But it's also such a broad rule that they had all these loopholes.
Right.
Which is an interesting note on how they've changed 8th edition in its development.
Absolutely. Then there's Implacable Conqueror. You can reroll failed charge rolls for any friendly Dynasty units while they are within 6 inches of your Warlord.
And then, possibly my favorite in some ways, you've got Honorable Combatant. If your Warlord targets the same enemy character with all of their close combat attacks, you can add D3 to your Warlord's attack characteristics until the end of the phase.
That's great.
I think you could actually make a really cool combo with that Destroyer Lord we were talking about. Yeah. So he flies, he's movement 10,
right?
And then he's basically unkillable and decent in combat. You give him this, and he can go hunt characters pretty well.
Yeah.
He's got 4 attack space, plus D3 is great.
That's really good.
It's really good. You could also throw that on somebody who has the Solar Staff if you're an Ephric.
Yeah.
And then you can... if you're the Blood Scythe, if you're Novak, he gets to make D3 additional attacks with that weapon.
Ooh.
And again, if he's putting them all on the same target, same character, he gets another D3.
So that's 2d3
additional attacks.
Plus 4.
Yeah.
Man, that's a scary Destroyer Lord.
Yeah, so suddenly, whatever character you can get, whatever character has that is a lot scarier than normal.
Yeah.
Then you've got your generic Warlord trait.
Or your dynastic traits.
Yeah. So you've got the Saltec, which is the best one. Like
it is, honestly.
This is the one you want like 80% of the time. Which I'm sad because I don't like that they try to force you to take Saltec so much in this book.
Yeah, they do. Like, a lot of the best stuff is in their Dynasty, all the special characters are in their Dynasty, and this one is just so good.
Yeah, but you've seen this one before, but basically it's very similar to the other ones. Once per battle, you can reroll a single hit roll, wound roll, or this is Hyperlogical Strategist is the name. Reroll a single hit roll, wound roll, or damage roll made for your Warlord.
Right.
In addition...
Nice, but...
If your army is Battleforged and your Warlord is on the battlefield, roll a d6 each time you spend a command point to use a stratagem. On a 5+, that command point is immediately refunded.
Really good.
So, great. Then you've got Mefrit, Merciless Tyrant. You add 6 inches to the maximum range of all assault weapons fired by your Warlord. In addition, your Warlord can shoot assault weapons at enemy characters, even if they're not the closest enemy model.
Pretty spicy.
Which is solid if you want to go assassinate characters and things like that. You've got some cool combos you can build with that.
There's the Nighlok one, which is Precognitive Strike. You always fight first, even if it isn't the charge phase, or even if you didn't charge. As always with these things, if other people charge or have a similar ability, then it goes back to normal.
This is possibly my least favorite Warlord ability, honestly.
Yeah.
Not all Necron characters are that crazy in combat, so unless you're using the Warlord traits to make them crazier in combat, it's not that great.
But I'll tell you what is great: Skin to the Living Gods.
Oh yeah.
If you're shooting at the Warlord, you are at -1 to hit.
Just attacking them.
Oh yeah, I guess just attacking them. Wow. Never mind.
-1 to hit your Warlord.
So
that's great. It's a much better way of making your character good in combat than going first.
Yes.
Lastly, for Novek, you've got the Crimson Haze. Which sounds like a drink I would get on like Bourbon Street in New Orleans at some point.
Absolutely.
But each time you roll an unmodified hit roll of 6 in the fight phase for a model and a friendly Novek unit that is within 6 inches of your Warlord, you can make 1 additional hit roll for that model with the same weapon against the same target. They don't generate things. They don't generate additional attacks. So this is great because it affects everything within 6 inches.
Wow.
And it is models.
Models, so...
No, in the unit within 6 inches. Yeah. For a model and a friendly Novek unit within 6 inches. Right?
Yes.
So again, everything with 6 inches is affected, and these are the close combat guys, so rather than just it helping your guy out, it's not like the craziest thing, but... It
helps your Warlord and his friends.
Which is pretty decent.
And that, I believe, is everything. So that's Codex Necrons, folks. It's good. They've got a lot of customizability to their warlords and to their armies.
Yep.
You can really build a couple of different ones. This is a very solid codex.
It's a solid codex. It feels like there's a lot of different ways you can build out your army. It's not focusing into one thing. It's got the beeps. It's got the boops. It's got the exterminates.
It's got the ones. It's got the zeros. Yep. I'm JayArr.
I'm Stable Abe.
This is Bell of Lost Souls. Thanks for watching.
1101.
Click to subscribe. Support us on Patreon. Check out more videos. And thanks for watching.